Good evening and welcome to the Royal Opera House, both to our audiences here in the Claw studio upstairs and to all of you worldwide watching our live stream via YouTube. I'm Alexander Campbell and I'm a principal dancer here at the Royal Ballet. Tonight's Insight is all about Frederick Ashton, the founding choreographer of the Royal Ballet. We're going to be taking a peek behind the curtain as the company prepares to perform three of his most characteristic works, The Dream, Symphonic Variations and Marguerite and Armand. This triple bill of Ashton works will be on stage at the Royal Opera House from the 2nd of June, and on the 7th of June you can see the show live in your local cinema, wherever in the world you may be. Let's have a look. To find your nearest cinema screening, visit roh.org.uk/cinema. Now, we'd love to hear from you, our online audience tonight, so please tweet us your questions, your thoughts, and use the hashtag ROHAshton. I'm joined now by the director of the Royal Ballet, Kevin O'Hare. Welcome, Kevin.
Good evening, Alex.
What do we have in store for tonight's Insight?
Well, we've got a packed evening. Later on, we're going to see Francesca Hayward and Marcelino Sambé rehearsing The Dream, which they're going to make their debuts in this season, and they're going to be coached by Lesley Collier. We're going to hear Stephanie Jordan tell us about Ashton. Stephanie is from the University of Roehampton. And then we're all going to have a little chat about how it is to dance Ashton. I'm sure you could add in something there as well.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, and then we're going to start off with Zenaida Yanowsky and Gary Avis rehearsing an extract from Marguerite and Armand, and they're going to be coached by Jonathan Cope.
Well, that sounds fantastic. And these performances of Marguerite and Armand are very special for Zenaida.
Yes, they are. It's with some sadness that she has decided to retire from being a principal dancer with the Royal Ballet this season. For those fans out there, I'm really hoping, like you are, that it won't be the last time we'll see her on the main stage or any stage in London. She's such a special and wonderful artist. But these are just a celebratory mark of this extraordinary career she's had and in this wonderful role that she's made her own. And she'll be dancing with Roberta Bolle, and that will be in the cinemas on the 7th as well.
Oh, well, that's going to be quite an occasion and a fitting farewell role.
Yes, certainly.
As Kevin's just said, we've got a lot to get through. So, without further ado, please welcome Zenaida Yanowsky and Gary Avis rehearsing Marguerite and Armand, and they'll be coached by Jonathan Cope. And on piano we have accompaniment by Rob Clark.
Just going to describe briefly the scene that we're going to rehearse, because it's going to be a bit out of context. This is the scene where Armand's father goes to Marguerite and he says to her that she needs to leave Armand because she's a courtesan and she's a bit of a floozy, and obviously she's devastated. She's suffering from tuberculosis and all the stress of this is making the disease worse. So that's basically, it's a little bit of sort of a mime and a tiny bit of dance, but a very important scene nonetheless. So would we like to just, because we're sort of early on in the rehearsal process, to just talk it once without music, and then we'll play it once with Rob, chat a bit more, and then maybe have a little go through as a scene. So you're down. So Armand's just left you in the first country scene. Gary comes out in the second phrase. And you have to turn back, possibly over your right shoulder, Zen, almost the other way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then on the twiddle, you're walking around, Gary comes down. Don't get too far upstage of him. Linger here as he comes down so that you can then know where he's going to finish, so you're not upstage. To ask him how he is, what he wants. When he changes the cane, a little bit of fear of what's to come. And a bit of a step back, that's it. You and Armand, it has to end. Da dee da tiam. So careful there, Gary, because once she's stepped up, she's going to turn a little bit upstage to say to you, but why? So you need to stay a little bit upstage for that, yeah. That's it. And then you're going to step up on fast then. That's it. Should be right foot front, because then you're going to go on the open leg for your first staggers. Pas de bourrée, back to the chaise, that's it. And then turn your head fully away so Gary can go, you are, but what you are. And steps away, let the whole first phrase go. Da da, da dee da, da da, bourrée, whole phrase. Get far, far back then if you can. And during the bourrée, Gary, is when you walk in there. When she says, but I love him, is when you turn and then wander in. And then you've got your out, pas de bourrée. So this is where you're going to need a lot of room for this. That's it. And then possibly a kneel then here, or almost kneel, with a little, possibly a bit of a the tuberculosis can kick in a little bit here if you feel the need. Step, step, soutenu, open leg. One more, stagger, down, new phrase. Da, dee, da, dum, ba, dee, da, dum, pk, dee. And that's it, yeah. Dee. 1, 2, closing fist behind, crossed, pas de bourrée, cross, pas de bourrée, cross, pas de bourrée. The beautiful music, the pillow that you haven't got, but we'll pretend. Put it to your cheek, put it down, drag back to center, a little bit upstage too. And maybe try not to come down, you come down through point and straight on, not, yeah. So once it comes down and then straight down for hands, Gary comes in. And a little tiny bit of resistance there, just so there is a little bit of, that's what they have been doing, yeah. The hat and the cane. Kiss. Now, try and go directly up center now, almost directly behind her, so she's going to turn. And we'll time this so you're not too far there, Gary, yeah. Because just off center, otherwise we don't see this. To stop. There you go. Yeah. I mean, ideally, if Zen is on center and you're off, it's perfect. Otherwise, she gets behind the chaise. Yeah. All right. Because then you're in a better place for when Armand comes back now. All right, Rob. So. 1 second then, let's just set up. So Armand's just left her and she's happy. It's all about to change. Okay, here we go. not bad. It's just your placing, but you'll be fine. Yeah. Because Gary should almost walk back just to the edge of this chaise, about here, really. So you've kind of got to leg it there, really get back. Yeah. Can we go from where she's on the chaise and he says to her?
Where she looks up.
She looks up, yeah.
Do you think maybe I'm coming
Too close, yes, too close, yeah. Be a little bit further away. Even in the beginning, Zen, when you walk out, keep your distance from him because you're going to step in for this.
Right.
Do you want to go from there and just finish it and then we maybe go back and do it? This is Gary. All right?
It's too far.
Chin, yeah, and... Go. I think it's kind. Yeah, it's because you're so long and beautiful. But there you go. But Gary's doing the right thing. But you don't need to get too close to him here, and anticipate the phrase slightly just to get going before the bourrée music.
Yes.
But you want to be here, Zen, and then you won't feel cramped. Yes, stage door. One more time. Okay, go. Very good. Lovely. Yeah, gorgeous. Absolutely. No, it's going to be lovely. When you do that, you can see, if you could get even further, because once you've finished that, to get the crossed leg kneel at the end of it, yeah, because you want to be right, almost, probably for you, a full kneel there, but right down at the end of that diagonal, yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Yeah, all that was good. And I think the arms go, once you've gone over here, they go back to fifth. Don't leave the left arm over Gary's arm. And then again, da dee da, dia. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Good. All of that was good. This is very nice. When you walk forward, make sure the arm is completely down. Before. So slightly earlier down.
Because I wasn't sure if I was in the right music. So I was like, oh!
On the lovely note, yeah.
I wouldn't mind hearing it
No,
again,
yeah.
if that's okay.
I mean, have we got time to do it all one more time?
4? 5 more minutes.
It's 4.5. Does that mean we could do it one more time? Yeah. Let's do it, yeah. Yeah, I threw you a little bit with that extra bit of detail there. Have you got just a little lead into the change of music? Yeah, a tiny bit before, I think, because she wants to pick it up. missed you.
If I could ask Gary and Jonathan for a quick word. Zenaida will be hearing from you later, so the door's that way. No,
Thank you.
Gary, once she's done hugging.
Is he staying?
No, I'm
He's
staying.
staying.
Gary, I'm going to give you this.
Oh, are you?
Yes,
Thank you.
you can hear your response. Jonathan, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah,
No,
I've
he's
got
a-
one.
He's got a
you've
mic
got
lapel.
one. I'm all mic'd up. Yeah.
You first performed the role of Armand with Sylvie Guillaume,
Yes.
and we're going to hear how the ballet was created by Ashton as a vehicle for Fontaine and Nureyev.
Yeah.
Is that really daunting, taking up a role after thing?
Well, only because the flavour of the original cast is always there, and you know with Rudolph there's going to be lots of turns, and the first solo there's lame ducks to the right, then lame ducks to the left.
So you took the actual technical aspect.
The technical aspect of sort of following somebody like Rudolph and pushing himself. you know,
And for someone like Zenaida following Fontaine.
absolutely.
That-
Well, what Margot was capable of emotionally as well, and all of that. Yeah, yeah.
And Gary, you've worked with Zenaida throughout her 22-year career. Being involved in her final performance must be a nice thing.
It's an exceptionally nice thing, but it's also extremely sad. I just said to her over there just before we started, I said, go on, make an announcement tonight and say that you're not going to leave. Because I think we're all going to really feel it within the company, because she's a huge part of who and what we are, and what she brings to each role that she does is so exceptional that we're very lucky that we get to watch that calibre of artist.
Absolutely. On a slightly lighter note, sorry, Marguerite and Armand, for someone who's never seen the ballet, what could they expect?
A full story in half an hour, proper romance. I mean, it's different to the Lady of the Camellias because Ashton changed it that Armand finds out that his father's been involved with Marguerite and that he's told Marguerite that she's got to leave. So then he rushes to her on a deathbed and she dies in his arms, whereas obviously in the Lady of the Camellias he never finds out, she just dies. So there is a lot of romance to that last part of her where she's just, if only things could have been different. Yeah. So yeah, but it's, I think complete story in half an hour. It's just totally gripping, yeah. And looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, music's beautiful. Rob plays it beautifully.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you both for being here. If we could all thank Gary Avis and Jonathan Cope for being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Shortly, we're going to hear from Zenaida Yanowsky, Kevin O'Hare and Lesley Collier. And a little later, we'll be seeing Francesca Hayward and Marcelino Sambé in rehearsal. But first, to talk about one of the most influential choreographers of the 20th century, please welcome Stephanie Jordan, Research Professor in Dance at the University of Roehampton.
I'd like to start with a quote. The ballerina should really tear herself in two on those lifts. Doesn't this instruction sound rather extreme, even brutal? It might surprise you then that it came from Frederick Ashton. The ballet is Symphonic Variations. The moment the two enormous breaths, the arcing split jeté lifts in the main pas de deux, when suddenly vertical space opens up in the magnificent glowing arena designed by Sophie Fedorovich. It was a celebration of the sheer size of the Royal Opera House, which had just become the Sadler's Wells Ballet's base post-war in 1946. And in 1946, the ballerina was Margot Fontaine. Looking at this first photograph, you'll see how those lifts end with an unusually powerful stillness in arabesque, a relatively modest arabesque, but with the ballerina's head thrown back, her projection still extending upwards and beyond. To put this in context, Ashton was now the principal choreographer of the Sadler's Wells Company. He'd come a long way by then, born in Ecuador, brought up in Peru, then his training and dance experience with Russian ex-Diaghilev ballet choreographers, Leonid Massine in London, in Paris, Bronislava Nijinská, not to mention the African-American dancer Buddy Bradley in Charles Cochran reviews. In the meantime, of course, he'd been working with and talent spotted by the two pioneer women of British ballet, Marie Rambert and Ninette de Valois. Perhaps after all that, a popular image of Ashton has been of a quintessential Englishness, for he was instrumental in forging the so-called English style of ballet, as opposed to the French or the American or the Russian. And that has sometimes meant a rather polite kind of dancing with some genteel, intricate knitting of the feet going on down below. But no, he's actually odder, wilder, and a lot more interesting than that. Certainly in this seriously beautiful ballet, Symphonic Variations, often considered Ashton's greatest work, with its thrilling celebration of community, its quieter, mystical secrets, and its strategy of big, bold contrasts. It's these contrasts that have fed so much of Ashton's work, and the sheer range of work that you see in this upcoming Ashton triple bill that I want to bring to your attention today. I'm reminded of that other brilliant Ashton programme of 2014, which had symphonic in the centre again, and on either side the rather tart wit of Sender Ballet, to music by Stravinsky, 5 Brahms waltzes in the manner of Isadora Duncan, which is really about modern dance, not ballet, and finally the high romantic A Month in the Country. Symphonic also proves that an Ashton style of movement definitely exists, emphasising multi-directional use of the body, fast, precise feet, and torsos that bend lusciously, dancers extending beyond themselves, never comfortable. To complicate matters, an undercurrent of quirkiness is not far from the surface of Symphonic Variations. Often, this is the result of some gentle discordance or counterpoint or asymmetry. There are some remarkable off-kilter configurations very early on in the prologue. One woman kneeling to reach out to another, who so suddenly finds herself in a perilous dive towards her from a high lift. They reach towards each other. Think about that moment again. It's remarkable. And we see the image as a torrent or a grand waterfall. Or there's a dotty variation for fun, for 2 women side by side. Here Ashton groups little flat-footed jumps, changement, ciseaux, assemblée, into constantly shifting timings. So we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2 3s, 2 5s, 2 3s again, and a 4. And you see crazy twists of the head and seesaw arms while they do this below, in these steps. César Franck's music is very staccato, non-stop quavers, regularly grouped in 6s. 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and against which we have those changing counts for the 2 dancers. Very strange. Now listen to ballet master Michael Soames, who was Fontaine's early partner, who once said, Ashton will deliberately slow down a movement if it's essential that it should be followed by a display of speed in order to heighten the contrast. Anthony Dowell confirmed to me that Ashton always wanted to avoid levelness. He said, suddenly there'd be something mad. And such contrasts are not prompted necessarily by something in the music. This is a fact of Ashton's unique and wonderful musicality. There might even be a sense of driving on despite the music. Now we come on to the Dream. You'll be seeing this here in the Dream Pas de Deux, Ashton's setting of Mendelssohn's incidental music for A Midsummer Night's Dream. As an example, Ashton insisted on a sharp rondejambe cutting through the very quiet legato main theme of the Nocturne. Dowell and Antoinette Sibley taught this in a televised masterclass, and Sibley demonstrated this move so that it looks dangerous, a kind of ecstatic swipe of the leg. Very striking. The duet is also punctuated by gestures of impatience from Oberon and very piercingly quick point steps from Titania. All these sharpnesses are in character, indicating willfulness and power, but not necessarily so obvious in the music. And they create dramatic contrast with the other melting quality and adagio of the Pas de Deux. As American critic Marcia Siegel wrote, watching the Joffrey Ballet dance The Dream, the American company, She said, the ballet's distinction lies in the non-literal storytelling that is found in the dancing alone. It's the dancing in the dream that shows us the character of the characters. And there's another kind of contrast here, of speed, when we look at the entire ballet. Ashton concentrates Shakespeare's story into a story of the lovers, the fairies and the rustics, and the plot, with all its changes of direction, moves forward like lightning. Then we have the big pas de deux, slowing everything down, a quite shocking change of gear. Here, Oberon calms Titania, her movements become smaller, less animated. She gives up her impulse to fly and yields. The dream dates from 1964. The year before, de Valois had resigned as artistic director of the Royal Ballet. Ashton had taken over that job from her. And he had just made the last piece on this programme, Marguerite and Armand. And if the dream tells its story through ballet moves, Marguerite and Armand does it quite as much through acting. I think we've seen that already this evening. As we've just heard, made for Fontaine, and her new partner, Rudolf Nureyev, after his defection from Russia in 1961. The ballet is based on the novel and later play La Dame aux Camélias by Alexandre Dumas fils. Ashton discovered that Dumas' character, Marguerite Gautier, was based on a real person, Marie Duplessis, who had had affairs with not only Dumas, but also Franz Liszt, the composer, whose B minor piano sonata Ashton was keen to use as his score. Ashton loves connections like this. And here, with this flashback structure, opening with Marguerite on her deathbed, remembering her affair with Armand, we see a series of scenes from her life with Armand before he rushes in for the actual death scene. This is a way, by the way, of handling a piece of existing music without editing it. It's so hard to make a story ballet out of an existing score. But Ashton wasn't after realism here. He is after what he called an évocation poétique. And we see the big contrasts again. The exhilarating partner work, many big circling lifts, Nureyev's big virtuoso turns and jumps, as opposed to her fragility and tiny stutters, staggers on point, which we've seen. All underlined by the distinctions between fierce fortissimo and pianissimo in Liszt's score. We heard some of that in the demonstration as well, with Armand's father to the fortissimo. Here's a ballet about drama rather than sophisticated step patterns or enchaînement. There's a wonderful description by Ashton of a moment in an early rehearsal with Marguerite and Armand's father, the part that we've seen. I saw the door open a crack, said Ashton, and Rudy looked in very cautiously. I could see him tiptoe round behind me as we went on working, and when he began to come to the end of the scene, he started stripping off his coat, and just at the right moment, he flew out from behind me into Margot's arms. It was wonderful. Fontaine adds to this that the following pas de deux had, she says, a passion more real than life itself, generating one of those fantastic moments when a rehearsal becomes a burning performance. Some description, this. But to bring you down to earth again, it's not so well known that this is now one of, even the most popular Ashton ballet of all to be sold to other countries and ballet companies, with a huge rise in interest in recent years. And I find that fascinating. Certainly it stretches, yet again, our notion of Ashton ballet. Thank you.
Well, thank you to Stephanie Jordan for that insight into Sir Frederick Ashton. Now, to find out more about what it was like to work with Sir Fred and what it's like to dance in his ballets, please welcome back Zenaida Yanowsky, Kevin O'Hare, and for the first time this evening, Lesley Collier. Welcome all.
Thank you.
I'm ready. You've all danced Ashton, but I'm interested to know what your first experience of Ashton was. Zenaida, do you remember the first thing about Ashton you came across?
Yeah, La Valse. And yeah, it was the first time I had seen anything by Ashton apart from La Film à Garder, which we watched on the video, and it was you, Lesley. We loved it. But apart from that, I had no idea really what Ashton was about. And I came to the company, and the first rehearsal I saw was La Valse, and it was wonderful. And then, so that was and then I was very happy that I was a few months later involved in La Valse as a core member.
And just to go off topic slightly, bit different watching La Valse and doing La Valse.
Totally.
Yeah?
Totally.
I felt, when we did it at school actually, and I felt like I was in a washing machine of colour. Would that be fair to say?
Well, an aerobic washing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those ballets that you end up just cleaning the floor with your tongue because you're so tired. But it's a wonderful ballet, and it was, for me, the musicality, the understanding of, you know, the steps, the purity of the steps with the musicality is just such an amazing vocabulary. And of course, I didn't grow up with it, so it took a little time for me to. It's going to sound bad, but basically compact. So my body gets quite compact because I had never worked in such a compact but yet eloquent way.
Well, it's probably a good question to ask Lesley. You grew up with Ashton?
I sort of grew up with Ashton. The first time I really worked with Ashton was when he came back from a tour of the company in America to have a look at the school's rehearsals for the school performance, which I was doing, the young girl in the Two Pigeons. And I probably thought I was marvellous and he didn't. Just because he wanted so much more movement than you could ever believe.
But that
upper body movement.
And it's interesting though, you know, Zenaida's comment of being compact, and you're talking about wanting more movement than.
Well, maybe
you know,
I'm more
before.
compact to start with.
It might be a proportion thing. No, but Kevin, you know, is there a way of explaining that?
No, I think he just loved the movement, and one of my first things was La Valse Noble et Sentimentale, which he revived when I just joined the company, and it hadn't been done for years and years and years. So he came into the studio, so I worked with him on that ballet as a very young person. And I remember this one bit where I was sort of sat on the floor like this, you know, and I was thinking I was doing, and he would come with his cigarette and just push my head back, so I would be leaning more. And I was watching a video of The Dream, actually, the masterclass that Stephanie was talking about, and just even with Antoinette, who in that video was already, you know, huge star, and still pushing her body so she would drag away at the beginning and get that use of, I think what was wonderful, this use of the body up top and then the feet being so accurate and together. Wonderful,
yes.
Wonderful.
And do you think that's part of this English style that Stephanie Jordan mentioned, you know, that being Frederick Ashton was the creator of that English style? Is that part of it? I mean, what does English style mean to the three of you?
It does mean what the choreographers give you. As far as I'm concerned, it's when we did Sleeping Beauty, when we did Swan Lake, even in a corps de ballet, we did it because Fred was my director. We did it in an Ashton way because he wanted that from us, and without knowing it. So for me, the English style is down to the choreographers.
Absolutely. And when, again, you know, as a tall ballerina, I felt very much that the English way was probably the opposite as the rest of Europe, which is big on the legs and not that much on the upper body. And in England, I saw the opposite. And it was, for me, was such a revelation because you can speak so much more by just, you know, this part moving and this part just being more compact and, yeah.
The Fred step. It's impossible to have an Ashton insight without it coming up. 22 years you've been in the Royal Ballet Company. Do you think that's long enough to have mastered the Fred step?
I can try it, yeah.
We're going to have a look and see what that is.
Try me. No, you do it with me.
No, I'm serious.
No.
I've got bits.
You don't know it?
I'm not 22 years.
That's the one.
Wow.
That's it.
That was without the upper body, of course. But
I've got a question for Lesley on this one. It seems that that step appears in virtually every ballet of his. Now, was that something that he thought, right, I'm going to get this in, this is going to be my signature move? Or was it, oh, I've got 8 counts, I'm going to fill it somehow?
I think Fred was quite superstitious, and I think if he didn't put it in, he thought the ballet would be a flop.
Is that right?
Well, I think that's how I felt about it, because it is in every ballet, whether it starts by the principal or the corps de ballet or the soloists. It's in every single one of his ballets.
Well, it's a good one to have because you can actually do it really quickly.
Oh, you can do it
as
really
you know,
quickly.
I mean, you do
Or
it
really
as one of the
pull
peasant
that.
boys in
Fee,
Fee,
yes.
and it goes at 100 miles an hour. But then you can really stretch it out and
Well, in Rhapsody, the corps de ballet do it in a really slow piece of
And the funny thing is that I
variation.
think over the years, and it comes again in other ballet, and you think, how can I better that step? It's like every time, it's like, I'm sure I can do it better. You know, I can make it look better or something. So, yeah.
Sorry to go back to Lesley again, but you mentioned Rhapsody. It's impossible for me not to ask you about it. What it was like working with him in a studio on a creation?
Well, it was quite tough because he was so demanding. I mean, he knew what he wanted, and so I just did what I thought he wanted, and of course then he wanted more. But it was basically, it started off quite comfortably, and then of course the wonderful pianists get carried away. The more they practice, it got faster and faster and faster, and we just had to keep up, you know. And that was the tough bit of it, really, the variations and the musicality of it. But I mean, it was a great privilege to have a ballet done on you.
But
I've been in lots, and I've done little roles made on me, but this was my first real role, I suppose.
That was a great role too. I mean, we're still performing it. Kevin, you are the custodian, I suppose, you know, of Ashton being the director of the Royal Ballet. Hearing Lesley say how exacting he was, how particular he was about certain things in the style, is that, you know, something that's really important to you to make sure that it's captured, that it remains, that style that he was so particular about?
Yes, totally, and you know, that's why we're so lucky to have somebody like Lesley here working on those ballets. And then of course we do invite Anthony Dowell, who's just been in today, working with the new Oberon. So you know, that's so important to carrying on the tradition, but also getting the details. It's those little details, and you love hearing those stories that Lesley can say when she was in a rehearsal with him and he said this and he said, you know, and those are the important things that just give you a little key into how to perform that step. And because you know, you can learn the step quite easily, but it's just those little ways of unlocking the secrets to making that ballet come alive. And we're working very much with we've got an Ashton Foundation now, which is separate to the Royal Ballet, but we're very much a part of it. And it's to encourage the work of Ashton to be seen as much as possible, but also to pass down the knowledge, and to have younger people within the company or outside to shadow people like Lesley Collier, people like Christopher Carr, people like Anthony Dowell, and just hear all of those things and try and remember them so that when then they're passing on to the next generation, that those things aren't lost. So I think it's very important to have that.
And you know, you obviously believe that these ballets have that longevity.
Yeah, I mean, I love putting these ballets, especially in a program like this, because you see the genius of the choreographer. You know, these 3 wonderful ballets, the way he distilled the story of the Midsummer's Night Dream is incredible. I mean, you have everything in it, and you don't have to sit and see a Shakespeare play for 3.5 hours. It's all there, you know. I mean, and it's just fantastic. And then 18 minutes of pure joy, like you've gone to church for 80 minutes watching Symphonic Variations, and then the sheer romance of Marguerite and Armand. And that's just one program, and then you can do another one that has this. And that's what I love about it, and the challenge for the dancers, you know, every new generation of dancers. I mean, Lesley, you've taught probably a lot of Titanias now and a lot of Rhapsodies, and each time it's a real...
Yes, it's a real challenge for them. I mean, I know when I was a young girl, I longed to do the Neapolitan dance. Well, when I had the opportunity, I was dreadful. It was so hard. Even holding a tambourine, I had such weak arms. And to dance the way he wanted you to dance. In fact, he took me out of it. He said, "You're much too stiff." Yeah. And then eventually I got back in it. But I mean, I longed to do that. It looks so easy and so much fun, and you have no idea how hard it is.
Well, that's like La Valse. I think anybody watching La Valse thinks, oh, that would be wonderful. Gorgeous costume, the men in their tails, let's just, you know, do that a few times. But it's so draining, isn't it, if you do it properly. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, you see, it would be quite interesting to see the company as the curtain comes down. And you get this beautiful image of everybody waltzing, and then the curtain closes and everybody's like, "Ah!" on the floor. It's quite something.
This is actually a question from myself. Do you think that Ashton has an unfair reputation as being a bit light-hearted? You know, sometimes when I talk to people, they go, "Oh, Ashton, you know, it's a bit frilly, this, that, and the other." But we've just seen, 20-minute rehearsal of Zenaida in Marguerite and Armand. Didn't look particularly frilly to me. You know, there's more to it. Am I right?
Definitely.
Yeah? Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think, yes, of course, because, one of his greatest masterpieces is La Fille Malgarde, which is the most joyous ballet you could think of, and it's, we opened the season with this, and I thought, gosh, we should do that every season, It's just such a great way to start the company dancing, really. But so I suppose that's why people hone in on that. But when you really think about those ballets, like symphonic, like Sender Ballet, monotones, really something very, very different, and then the dramas as well. I think there's a huge range there, and that's why you can put on programs like an all Ashton triple bill, because there is range within his work, and you see so many different sides of a dancer's ability.
There's more to it than just that sort of skipping along. And actually, I've got a really lovely quote here. This is from Edwin Denby. This is written in 1952. And he says, "The more trivial the subject, the deeper and more beautiful is Ashton's poetic view of it." And I think that sums it up really quite nicely now.
I mean, with the two pigeons, for example, people think it's kind of light and frothy, but the depth that young man can go to is enormous. And if you get a great artist, rather like yourself when you did it, it's so deep.
Yeah.
But it's dressed nicely, and she's kind of kooky. But I mean, it's all about the man, as far as I see it. It's all about the man, and it's a great turmoil he's going through. So it's not.
And he captures that beautifully.
Yes, and it's not that light-hearted, really.
Well, that's the thing. People think it is, and that's the joy of it, and they're sort of swept up in all of the fun of two pigeons and everything, and then they suddenly find themselves in tears because they've followed this person's journey through all of these things and coming back home to the
and the fact that she forgives him and it all ends happily probably makes you think, oh, it was lovely. and he hasn't been through such a terrible time, but he has really.
Well, he's been dragged through the mud at one point. How does Ashton's style, his legacy, still influence the Royal Ballet? Obviously, through programming, we've got his stuff on, but does it directly influence choreographers we have today?
Yes, I think so. I mean, you know, we were just in, Zenaida is in a new work by Liam Scarlett, who, you know, such a musical choreographer, and that's what you would say immediately about Ashton as well, wouldn't you? How he works so, makes you nearly hear the music in a different way by watching the steps. And I think Liam has taken that very much on as part of, in his DNA, you know, he grew up from, you know, White Lodge, watching all those ballets and learning from those, so I would say so. Are there tricky and intricate steps, Zenaida?
I think it leaves a seed, certainly, in everybody that goes through the Royal Ballet. And it's a seed that will become a plant no matter what. I believe everybody who has gone through and knows Ashton and has danced a little bit of Ashton would be in some way a benefactor of that.
So do you feel like this is the perfect way to finish, well, not finish, but, you know, draw to a close one part of your career with the Royal Ballet?
Close the folding door.
We're going to get to that.
The revolving door.
But seriously, you know, does this feel like, you know, a good way to finish? Are you pleased with?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I think Ashton and Macmillan both, for me, represent the Royal Ballet and represent very much what my dream as an artist. So to leave you all guys here with this, it's something very beautiful, yeah.
Well, I could sit here and chat all night, but we do have to wrap up there. But thank you so much for joining us, Kevin, Lesley and Zenaida.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember, we want to hear from you, our online audience, so please do tweet us using the hashtag ROHAshton. Now, please welcome dancers Marcelino, Sambé and Francesca Hayward. Welcome both. A couple of questions before we get started. Ashton's choreography for you, enjoyable or a challenge, or both?
The biggest challenge, but the biggest enjoyment. Such like massive reward at the end of it all, so makes it all worthwhile in the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Make sure you use the microphone. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a challenge technically because it's really pure. The technique ballet is very classical, but then you have to have your personality on top of it. Your personality is so important in Ashton work. You need to be really a character, really feel it.
And Marcelino, do you remember your first experience of Ashton, whether it was performing it or watching it?
Funny enough, I was hearing Zenaida saying that La Valse was their first experience. Same as me. I was a student when I first did it in third year, and it was such a joy. I remember going home and rewatching it because it's just so joyous and such a challenge.
Now, we're going to see you rehearse a little bit of The Dream. For people who've never seen the ballet before, what can they expect? Either one of you can take this one.
I think The Dream's actually, obviously, based on Shakespeare's play, and I think the genius of it is that it's actually quite an old-fashioned story in a sense. You know, the lovers and the comedy and the romance, everything. You've got everything you need in one story. But also, I think what Ashton does so brilliantly is he makes it come to life. It doesn't seem so ridiculous suddenly, you know, that you're seeing loads of fairies dancing, and I think hopefully everyone should completely believe the world that they've entered thanks to what Ashton has made it.
Nice. Do you have a favourite Ashton ballet or Ashton role? I mean, maybe they're in the same thing.
Well, for me, obviously this is a great ballet, one of my favourites, but also Marguerite and Armand probably is. When I was actually younger, it was one of the first ballets I ever watched with Margot Fontaine. So that was, it's really special, and I can't wait to watch it here.
I would say the same, Marguerite and Armand, and obviously as well, I feel Marguerite was my first full length I've done, and I have just such a special connection with that character. I think it really felt really natural, and it's just such a beautiful, happy ballet, and just really wonderful to dance.
Well, excellent. Thank you to you both. We're now going to see Marcelino and Francesca rehearse the pas de deux from The Dream. They're going to be coached by Lesley Collier with added input from Kevin O'Hare. They're going to be accompanied by pianist Grant Green. Thank you.
movement of the dress.
Okay, we're going to have a slight change of plan because we thought we would start at the beginning of the ballet with the argument where Titania has the child, the changeling child, and Oberon very much wants the child for his servant, and she's refusing to give him the child. So they've had one rehearsal on this, which was yesterday, and Marcelino had Anthony showing him what to do, and I hope he remembers because I was showing Francesca. So I think Marcelino will remember, but it starts with Oberon coming to the fairies. It's just at the end of the fairy scene, and he's going to come on a little bit backwards and sweep his cape around. At the same time, Francesca is going to make an appearance at the top of the stairs with the child in her hand. I'll be your child. And she's going to just introduce herself. Yes, I'm here. She sees Oberon. She's not that happy at that. She comes down the stairs, and then their first gesture is, "And why are you here?" And then he wants to take the child. You're going to take him that way. He comes over, and to take him away this way. And then he's going to say, "Give him to me." And she says, "No, I won't." "Give him to me." "No, I won't." And she goes and she puts the child over here. Then they have this little confrontation step. So you're going to, do you remember? Yeah. Okay. And you're going to go 1 and 2. Keep looking at each other. You're really playing each other off. And 1 and 2. Marcelino, I spoke to Anthony this morning. When it comes to the music, he says he remembers it being slightly syncopated. So Francesca's going to go, and yata di, and you're going to go, yata yata di da yata da. Yeah. Because the timing is absolutely crucial with Ashton. So it's like she takes a step and you catch her up. Okay. Yes? Okay. Then I watched Antoinette teach this, and I told you wrong yesterday. This is a way, but when she comes back that way. So it's the same, but this time she's looking at him. Yes. So you're going to... he goes 1 and 2. 1 and 2, you go 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and he goes 7 and 8. And then you're going into 1, 2, 3, and 4, and collect the child. Then you've got the diagonal, yeah, da, da, yeah, da, da, and just past center. So there's plenty of time for Marcelino to do his pirouette, and jeté. Then you're going to take the child away and leave him space to do his jeté here. So don't go so much to the corner. So once you've come past the center, for the first one, you're going to take this one just slightly sharper, because there's a tree here, and Marcelino has to come this side of you, so you've got to leave him a bit of space. Okay? Then we've got that little bourrée step. So you're going to go changing your feet the whole time. Then he's going to take the child from you. 1, 2. You're going to take the child 3, 4. He's going to take the child 5. Pull 6, 7, 8. Child falls on the floor. You go to the child. Look back at him. You both go to the child. Okay? Yes. Give him a nasty look. And then just make sure the child's all right. Call your fairies, and we're going. Take the child off the stage. Yep. Should we try to do that with the music? Okay. Grant, thank you. I'm going to... Okay, good. All right. Yes, no, you must be there.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So you have to know how long your arms are and share the center. Okay. Frankie, darling, you won't come down the stairs that quickly. So you've got the first chord you're coming. So you go, tiam, see him, and then take your time to come down the stairs, and then just pause a little bit, so that you go in more urgently to say, what are you doing? Okay? Let's do one more time. One. Yes. Okay. You've got to, Frankie, as soon as you've done it, you've got to go back again. He goes 1 and 2, go 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. I think when we get the stairs, you'll feel more comfortable. It looks to me like you're still walking and walking and walking and walking, and you don't quite know when to go in. I would just walk, look at him, and then demand why he's here. Ill met by moonlight. Okay. Have you got going up and down stage? A little lead into that. So you've just put the child over here, and remember where you put the child, because it's not going to move. So by the time you come back, you just need to have the child's hand so you can do this step. Yes? Okay. Okay, Frankie, when you do your really show the real anger in your, like kicking. It's like you're kicking him, but of course you're not. So really, like, get away from my child, you know. It's that's better. I think, darling, you're still coming off your leg, which loses the look. You need to be able to sit on your leg so you're on balance for the kick. And really twist your waist. So you really... Yes. So we see it, maybe arms not so high, maybe just a little lower. That looks good. And then we'll see that from even back view. Yes? Yes, you're going. It's just a different kind of, it's just be on your balance instead of off it. Then once you've done that, then of course you can stretch to come off it. But Still a little bit, not looking angry enough. It looks almost, by coming off it, it almost looks kind of sensual. Save that for the pas de deux. But not bad. It's coming. It's coming. When we get a child, you'll realise how difficult it is, because they don't like to move very much. They're terrified, and you have to drag them. But we're hoping that the child is smaller than Frankie. Okay, we could leave that. We just started to learn the pas de deux yesterday, so I think we could go as far as... Stephanie, I regret to say we're not getting as far as your lovely picture that you showed us. So we didn't get that far yesterday, so we probably won't do that. But we could start with the pas de deux. Have a little talk. You're there by now, Frankie. Okay, now this is what we've all seen, Fred coaching Antoinette. So we need to really lie against the arm. So he really, I mean, obviously he's got quite, this is fine, but when he gets into arabesque, you've got to help him a bit. But really give him the feeling, once you've given him the arm, that you kind of don't, you really don't, it's like you're resisting, and then you shoot through and go. So when he starts his music, that's when you come on again. Okay. So as he does, he comes down the stairs and does his arabesque off the stairs. When he's done that, you come on down, da-dee, and you kind of sort of forgiven him now. And then you take your position here. So you're already in that position when he's souteniers and turns. Then he's going to do this lovely développé. And arm there. Now, yum, da-dee, da-dee, and through. Dee-dum, dee-dum. Good boy. Da-yum, dee, da-yum, oh, da-yum. Okay, good. All right, let's try it with the music. Do you know, what legs are you doing, darling? Show me your legs. Da-dee, coupé there. And then second time step, step. Absolutely correct. Good.
When I come through,
yes.
Is this one of these half
it's a half. It's a half. This is the one I saw him correcting,
good.
Not the one I told you about yesterday. So I've got to tell Anthony that.
It's not as long as you.
Not as long. Really curvy. Yes. And then take the curve down and back again. Okay. Grant, thank you very much. Okay, so you're coming down the stairs and you're going to do this off the stair. Sketch. We're ahead of sketch.
Oh,
so you've got 3, 1, 2, 3 through 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3 through 4, 5, 6. Sorry, not the whole thing. Just maybe from the beginning of the pas de deux. Okay, Marcy, I think you're probably anticipating it too quickly, and that's why she's come.
After the arabesque.
Really make it 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Yes.
Yeah, Marcelino, you just stay there. You don't think you need to step. So you're pulling that way with, you don't move, and that pull, and then that pulls her later. So don't you
Kevin,
you're stepping
come and
too
show
early.
me. Come and be with me.
I think you're there, aren't you? That way. So we're there, and you pull her, and then she comes through, whatever the leg is. So wait there, so she just really, and you could be even more resistant, I think. So
Yes, really make it hard for him, because I think it's helpful. That looks lovely, Frankie. Good, good. One more go, and then we'll go on. Yes. You are so beautifully musical, but you almost need to make the stillness part of the music, and you're using the whole, it's wonderful what you're doing, but it's not quite right. You need to, you need to get there. So we've got 2/3 here, and you're making it fill out the music, but it's the feeling that fills out the music. So you get there and continue, but you continue in stillness in a funny sort of way. So think of it being on one, and the one, and explode to go down. Then this is all looking very good now.
Okay.
He's balancing quite a long time on his arabesque, so when you get there, just delay to go into this position. Wait until because he's supposed to be saying, let's go over there. You're going, yes, I'm going. And are you coming? Yes. Good. Have we got into this? Okay, all right. I think, yes, don't go from here, Frankie. Just, it's like, oh, I'm going to go there. And he stops you and go, oh, all right, I'm going to go here. Oh, all right. It's like he's, yes. So don't go so far away from him. From here, almost just come down to do that little bourrée. Yes. And then round, 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 round.
Lesley,
yes.
You know, on this bit, did the boy sort of help her? So there's a little from there, what to help that go over there. Did you feel? It feels like we're just going straight there, doesn't it?
She should be going a little bit out.
Yeah, I think Marcelino can sort of do that with her, just a little, just to have that feeling with her. It can be even a bit more accent to it, I think, a little bit. Do you think, Les?
Yes, I think if you can almost feel like you get there on your own first. He joins you, and the fact that he's joined you makes you go, oh,
sort of like a breath.
I think what's happening is that she's falling backwards into him. So I think you have to support her on her balance, darling. I think that's why she can't explode without looking like she's already going back. And frankly, again, not so delicious. It's not. Oh, it's up to go down more than that. Yes, it's kind of more. That's lovely. And then when you come round here, again, get there to show that position. And again, that's really one of those that Stephanie showed us earlier in the pictures. And there, and there. And then boy around back up, Marcy. That's great. And no, we'll finish this way. And then you're just going to melt. Okay? Shall we go on from the bourrée round? I can't see. Okay, all right. You need to.
First start this way.
From this, you need to keep this going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can keep your head looking down.
Is my arm up when you finish this?
You're going to get the dreaded tap. I'm sorry, we're going to have to finish there.
That's all right, that's fine.
We all want to see more, I know, but if you want to see more, you'll have to come and see a show. No. We've had some lovely comments online coming through. On YouTube, Terry Perouse says, being able to watch these rehearsals is so amazing. Watching from Canada, they are like free masterclasses. And on Twitter, user Jedi Trousers says, watching the rehearsal on YouTube of Royal Ballet, I'm seeing the performance in a couple of weeks and I'm already crying. The triple bill of The Dream, Symphonic Variations and Marguerite and Armand will be on stage here at the Royal Opera House from the 2nd of June and live in your local cinema on the 7th of June. For more details, go to the Royal Opera House website. Now, a big thanks to everyone involved in the Insight tonight, but especially to Marcelino Sambé, Francesca Hayward, Lesley Collier, Kevin O'Hare, Zenaida Yanowsky, Jonathan Cope, Gary Avis, Stephanie Jordan, Rob Clark, and Grant Green. A big thanks also to all our wonderful audience here at the Royal Opera House and to all of you who've been watching at home online. Thank you for joining us. Good night.